What's up, active lifers? Welcome back to the Active Life Podcast. I'm Dr. Sean Pastuch. I'm your host. Today's guest is my friend Hewitt Tomlin. Hewitt is the one half of the ownership and the foundership, if that's a word, of TeamBuildr, which is a software that strength and conditioning coaches around the world are using to deliver program design to their clients. The reason I wanted to have Hewitt on is because he's been able to achieve something that frankly I failed at, which is having a relationship with a friend that evolves into a successful business with that friend, that evolves as their vision evolves together. So they founded this thing while they were in college at Johns Hopkins, and it's now become the preeminent software for strength conditioning coaches around the world. There's a lot that goes into that. These guys lived together for years. They are close friends. Their families are friends. There are complicating factors that lead to most of those relationships, including some of mine, breaking down. And it is the values and the character, the integrity that Hewitt lives with that drove me to wanting to have him on the show today. Those of you who are in partnerships will especially find value in this episode. If you are a strength coach, make sure you're giving a look to TeamBuildr as a potential platform for you to work on. And if you love the episode, head to wherever you're listening, leave us a review, shoot a screenshot over to Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram. And I'm going to choose my favorite each week to do a 15-minute coaching call absolutely free. If you already entered your review, thank you. I appreciate it. Your review is still in the running if it hasn't already won. Let's get you to the show. Hewitt Tomlin, welcome to the Active Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I have to say, I was surprised when I got the invite.
Why were you surprised?
I just see Active Life as like just like a cutting edge company for practitioners. And I'm not a practitioner, so that's why.
Okay. So you shouldn't be surprised because you've created a platform on which some of the world's most proficient, excellent, whatever the word you want to use, practitioners of what we teach service their clients.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, the reason why I've enjoyed our digital relationship, only because we haven't met in person yet over the last 2 or 3 years, is because I have so much respect for your integrity, your character, and the way that the people who I've talked to who work at TeamBuildr talk about you and TeamBuildr. So you shouldn't be surprised you're here.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we'll get right into it because you are the preeminent software for strength and conditioning coaches around the world. There is no other way to slice it. If you are working with a professional football team, a college basketball team, or whatever have you, you're probably on TeamBuildr. And now more and more CrossFit coaches, personal trainers, and those likes are starting to find out about you and flock your way as well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start with, how did a guy from outside of DC in Maryland end up signing, or Virginia? Was it Maryland or Virginia? You were Maryland.
Well, I originally, I'm from Tennessee, so I have to rep there and say that's born and raised. But 18 years old, I never came back. Maryland.
How old are you? How old
32.
are you?
32.
Oh, so technically you've still lived more of your life in Tennessee than Maryland. Not technically.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right. I still rep Tennessee. Yeah. I got the tattoo on my chest right here.
Do you really?
Kidding. I don't. No, I don't. But I think about it sometimes. If I was cool, if I was like an MMA fighter, I'd probably get it. If I was.
What did you say? Volunteer on it?
Let's say made in Tennessee. Don't mess with me. If I was an MMA fighter, I'd say don't mess with me.
Fair enough. But so you go from normal story to all of a sudden you have a software company that is supporting, everything from Ohio State, the Tampa Bay Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, and 1,000 other major institutions in between. How does that happen?
Yeah, and I'll add, I did it with my business partner, and neither of us are strength and conditioning coaches, never have been, which is kind of weird, I think.
Well, forget it. Your credibility's at the window. Let's just end the show now. We're
done. Dude, I've thought about this for years, and I sort of came to the best answer that I found fairly recently, which was we kind of built the company for a profession, agnostic of the setting that the profession sat in. And I look at my competitors, because like, who can help but do that? And I kind of noticed that like they built their companies like for the profession within the context of the setting. One built for like coaches in CrossFit, one built for like coaches and professional and big college settings, and then one is like they're going after high schools. It's very obvious. But at the end of the day, we sort of like accidentally fell into like only creating for the strength coach. And the strength coach is part of a team, usually, like especially in big college and professional, and you can call them high performance directors or human performance directors, and then there's whatever, but there's always a strength coach there. Someone has to design the program, write it, coach it, and then bring the data in. Like that's a job. It's not going anywhere. And we accidentally just only built for that job. So when I look at our company and where we compete in college against the college guy, that competitor, high school and pro, and a third of our customers are international, because the strength coach position doesn't really change country to country. Like that person still needs to sit down, think about the program, design it, write it, distribute it, collect the data. And that was kind of an accident for us, but sort of not, because when we created our company, we didn't really run to investors or run to our friends and family for advice. Like, is it a good idea? We went right to the strength coaches and we were like, is this a good idea? If not, why? And with that two cooks in the kitchen, us, me and James, that was one party, and then the other party, the strength coaches, created a pretty direct solution, as opposed to having too many cooks in the kitchen, too many opinions. Never got caught up in that.
So you were able to basically go to people who you knew and say, would having something like this make your job easier? Should we build it?
Yeah, we only knew one because we were in college. Oh, dude, we played, you can relate to this. We played Division III football. All the other sports at our college were Division III. We didn't have a strength coach. It was kind of like the sport coach giving workouts. The only team on campus that had a strength coach was the lacrosse team, because they were Division I.
What school?
So yeah, it was cool, right?
No, Hopkins. What school?
Oh, Johns Hopkins.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We're one of those, where it's like all lower level and then one D1.
Yeah, wasn't baseball Division II?
Division III.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, a good D3 team probably would compete with a lot of D2s.
We played a high school game on your baseball field, and I was like,
yeah. In the middle of the city. Not a lot of baseball fields are just plopped down in the middle of the city. That's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of a skyline back there.
Yeah. It's like a Central Park, but Baltimore.
Yeah, exactly. But in Baltimore. So the only strength coach we knew was this lacrosse coach, and we just grabbed him like before, after practice or something, and we were like, tell me what you do. Like, how do you do it? And he just opened his computer and said, I have a calendar. I know when the seasons are, the off seasons. I kind of put it all together. And that was our first sort of conversation with a strength coach. And then from there, we were just begging strength coaches for their time. Like, hey, can you tell us what you do? And can you look at what we're doing? Does it make sense? And you know what? Along the way, people said it did make sense. We knew there was something there. It wasn't an overnight success for bringing our product to the market, but we always kind of knew there was something.
This is such a good story about how I could have done things better than playing digital mini golf in my HTML programming class. I took that class because I needed it to graduate, and I was like, I am never going to use this ever. So I like finished the assignment, and then I don't know if you remember, I don't think it was Candy Crush, but whatever it was, like they were like the mint was the big thing in the mini golf game.
I'm vaguely familiar. I mean, I had my games that I was on, believe me.
Yeah, well, you picked it up a little better than I did. I got in trouble because there was a whiteboard behind me, and I didn't realize the teacher could see the reflection of the mini golf game I was playing on my computer and the whiteboard behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't go well for my college career.
I hear you. Look, I have a business partner who is the computer science guy. Like if it wasn't for him, I don't know what would have captured my attention to sort of build a company or anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was working a lot in the beginning, and I was trying to sell to people and no one was listening. So I kind of felt like I was twiddling my thumbs a little bit until we got traction.
I've been there. Where were you in college? When were you in college?
2008 to 2012.
Okay. So how do you go though so we have this program, and I imagine Johns Hopkins was like, we want to use it. Like it's one of our students, we'll try it. And you gave it to him for free, if I had to guess. And then how does it go from that to the team that picked up Tom Brady last year?
Yeah. Just overnight, just like that. You know, if you build it, if you build it, they'll just come to you. Yeah.
Right.
They'll call you. Actually, you don't even have to call them.
Right.
Look, in the beginning, we were introducing a novel product to a market. So the market for like strength and conditioning software didn't really exist. This is a novel product. When you came to coaches, they weren't like, oh yeah, I'm already using one, but I'll try this. Or, oh yeah, I've heard about this. They were like, man, I've been using Excel for 10 years, 20 years. Like, you know, my system works. Like they don't know anything else. So we kind of found out early on that we can go with we had a minimally viable product. We can go out there and try to sell this thing. But what does the money do for us at that point? Like if I made $100 or a couple thousand or a couple of tens of thousands, like that's not going to make or break the company in the beginning. I needed people using this. And if they were willing to invest their time in using my product, then I knew I was onto something, and then we could start scaling it. So I was really just begging coaches to use TeamBuildr. Like if I taught them the software and they kept using it without me sort of, you know, asking them to, then I'm like, now we're on to something. Now they're doing it. So that was the name of the game in the beginning. And I kind of felt like it took a year and a half to get there. And then we assigned a price to it and we got our first customer. So once you get the first dollar in the door, it kind of changes everything. At least it did for us.
Do you remember who that customer was?
Oh yeah. Lynchburg College, Dr. Steve Smith.
Do you remember what he paid, where you were? I would love to hear, I would love you to take us to that moment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was working in like what essentially was an annex of a warehouse. I was, you know, out of college a couple of months, and I was just cold calling coaches all the time. And he was someone I cold called, set him up with an account. He tried it for 2 weeks. You know, this is our arbitrary 2-week trial. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I called him. I was like, hey, did you like it? He was like, yeah, I liked it. I was like, did you want to buy it? And he's, yeah, I want to buy it. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, he's actually going to buy this thing. So, but I mean, granted, like lots of people went through that whole thing prior to him. You know, this wasn't, it took a while. But Dr. Steve Smith, $1,000 for the entire program of Lynchburg College, which is
that a year's long subscription, or is he owning
a year-long subscription? Yeah, for a year-long subscription, $500 or $1,000, 500 athletes. Lynchburg's still the customer today. Yeah, what, 10 years later, 9 years later?
Are they still paying $1,000?
You know, they're only paying $1,200 now. It's not that big of a difference.
Not bad.
But you know, they have a soft spot in my heart. If we tripled our prices, they probably would. I'd probably stick them there, and I'd probably ask them what they were comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's family.
Of course, man. That's big time family. And it's not Steve Smith there anymore, but the new guy, I let him know all the time. I'm like, you are the ultimate legacy account. Like, don't screw this up. Don't cancel the subscription.
Right. Even if you decide to go back to spreadsheets,
yeah,
we're gonna grant you an account. You're always a TeamBuildr client.
Yeah, just grandmother for sure.
Yeah,
but so, look, we're still a long way off at this point from the time. You know, you asked about like, how does Tom Brady get on? Like 2 years ago, so we're talking like 8-year difference.
Yes. How did you go?
Did that go through? Did you hear me?
I heard you. We're cutting out a little bit, but how did you go there though? How did you go from Lynchburg to Tom Brady?
Yeah. So it's I mean, a lot of things that go into it, but like when an NFL strength staff sort of like endows you with the responsibility of being like their programming platform, it's not just your product alone that kind of gets you there. At that point, it's very much your reputation in the space. And we spent like the better half of a decade, not just building a really good product, but really, really, really being conscious of our reputation in the space. And that's what kind of got us to where we are today, I think.
This is a really valuable lesson for people. How do you manicure your reputation in the space?
Well, like, let's use an example. If you were to call Comcast today with like an issue, how long do you think it would take you before you actually spoke to another human on the phone who was actually capable of solving the issue? Like, how long would that take you? 10 minutes, like 30 minutes?
More time than I care to give, at least 20 minutes.
At least 20 minutes, right? Like, you might talk to someone, but they probably are not solving your issue. Like, you have to like pull teeth to get to the person who's like, okay, I can do this for you.
They have the manual that they're following, but they're not the person who can think through the problem.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of businesses out there that they kind of have a bad reputation just because of that alone. And take TeamBuildr, for example, just take like the last 24 hours. We have this new customer and they're climbing the learning curve. They just got onboarded and they're having trouble and they're getting frustrated. They call us on the support line. A human is picking up every single time. And they call on Friday, they call on Monday, they get picked up. And I'm starting to think here, like, this person is like really working through some things. Like, they're going to need a little bit extra to kind of get them to the finish line, you know? So I get involved and I give the guy my cell number because they're sporadic. And when they reach out to us, and by the time they contact again, there's someone else picking up where they left off. And there's a lot of gaps in the communication. So I give the guy my cell number. I'm like, hey, you text me like when things come up, when your athletes come in and out, you notice things. And over the last 48 hours via text, we worked through like 3 of his issues, 3 things that required some free communication. And then now he's settled, he's good. And he's going to have some stuff, right? And the support team will help him. But like, I just knew I need to rapid fire, get him like through these things in the next 24 hours. And then he texted me this morning and he was like, I can't believe that, you worked with me on this, like via text message. And I was like, yeah, man, that's why people don't really leave TeamBuildr. And it's like an aggregation of those things that give you a good reputation. There are moments where like you can decide to be ethical or like big decisions. If they're big visible decisions, like there's a big incentive there to protect your reputation and to be ethical and moral and think about your optics, right? Because they're visible. But there's these many smaller sort of instances that are less visible. Like, I get a platform now to kind of talk about on your podcast, which is nice. But like, had I not, this guy would have just, I would have forgotten it about the next couple of days. But it's those small interactions like that really kind of accumulate and snowball into what is the reputation at the end of the day.
How do you draw the line between I'm going to give everybody my cell phone and text with them, and that's not sustainable?
Yeah, I was sort of like cleaning up my phone book in my iPhone the other day, and I have like 200 to 300 people in there that are just TeamBuildr customers, like coaches. There was a point where like it was too much and I had to leverage my support team more. Like, dude, thanks for texting me. I'm actually going to screenshot this and send it to Ryan on the support team, and he's going to email you. Is that okay? Do you understand that I have to do this? Like, I kind of felt bad, but it gets to a point where you have to leverage it. Like, let's be realistic. I can't text support everyone in my company. That is just absurd to think about. But there are moments where like, I can get this done in 24 hours instead of putting this on my support team for a week. I'm just going to do it. So you make the calls, and then another part of it is your support team. You have to invest in them to make sure they can provide the same level or even better service than you can. Like, a lot of the support people on my team do a better job than I do at sort of troubleshooting issues. So they have a comparative advantage at times, and I have a comparative advantage at times. When people get upset and they start getting an attitude, customers and prospects, I step in because it's probably more appropriate for me to interact with them. Whereas if someone has a run-of-the-mill issue, look, the support team's got to do it. You have to understand that I can't take every run-of-the-mill support issue. I have to lead on my support team.
Right. Well, what you're speaking to there is making judgment calls, and effectively, what it sounds like is jumping in, rolling up your sleeves to help the team when they're overloaded, when someone can be better serviced by you than by them. And when there's an issue that is really a fundamental issue around culture and where, how someone was treated, that's where you're jumping in, because you recognize that no matter who did what, it's your responsibility.
That's true. The whole point of, as a leader, you're accountable for whoever you're in charge of, their results. That's been a big emphasis in our company as we grow to put on the middle management. We've always had me and James, and then the people below us, like on one tier. And then now we have this kind of middle management layer appearing. And we're accountable for their results, which are the results of the people below them. And like that's a growing pain that we're kind of working through. Because I tell you what, like, it's easy to, as the top of the hierarchy, to go down the bottom, like, I'll just do it myself. And then you can be accountable for the results because you took direct charge of it. But like, that's not scalable. That's not going to work for you forever. In fact, it kind of makes you more volatile, because you're going to have days where you do that. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be in a bad mood. And then you're going to want less of those days. And, I don't want my mood to be volatile based on those circumstances. I want my mood, my stress levels, my quality of life to kind of be level. And the only way to do that is to empower people below you, obviously.
I think it's also because the more that you do the job of somebody who is there, the more that they're going to grow insecure about themselves. Does Hewitt keep jumping in because he doesn't think I can do this?
Yeah, it can be insulting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it can be insulting.
So how often do you run into issues with clients that you can see when you're talking to somebody? This is a cultural issue with the way that they run their program. And I would love to be able to help them more with this. And I'm not sure I can. Does that ever happen you're a technology company.
Yeah. Like, where do we draw the line? I used to like really draw the line like earlier in our company's life cycle, like, hey, we're just a tech guy,
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is really your deal. But then I've really come around on that. What's really helped me come around on that is by hiring strength coaches into my company. Like, I have so many people who are CSCS and who really, really love coaching. They coach before and after work. If I have those people in the house now, which I do, kind of sort of contributing beyond like the framework of just our technology, that's exciting for them. That's like above and beyond, and into something that they really enjoy to begin with. So that's kind of been our way to sort of contribute to that, is, hey, we can go above and beyond here, because we have people in house where it's appropriate for them to kind of speak that language and get involved in that world, and two, they're happy to do it. They think it's exciting, in addition to the existing scope of work of their job responsibilities.
Well, the reason why I asked you that question is what I've learned in running Active Life is the problems that we aim to solve for our clients are ultimately capped by something else, meaning that the value of the return that they can get are not like, everybody has heard this story. Two people bought the same product and left very different reviews. Exact same product, right? What was the difference? And I've heard business owners, and I never wanted to be one, who said, well, this person did the work and that person didn't. Because to me, it's, well, that person didn't do the work because you failed to help them understand why doing the work was important and worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what you're saying is you communicated easily with one and not with the other, and that's why they failed.
Mm-hmm.
And so in doing that, we've had clients who have been having struggles that I've recognized in our conversations are not about, they don't know how to get through the content. They're struggling to implement it. Their wife doesn't believe in it, or they have staff members who are asking them questions that they're uncomfortable answering, or, they got told no twice in a row and now they're gun shy. And I then will talk to the wife. I will talk to the staff member. I will have the conversation on behalf of this person and then teach them how to have the conversation, when that's not what we're meant to do. Do you run into anything like that ever, or is it simpler because of the nature of your platform?
It is a little bit simpler because of the nature of the platform. I have to admit that. But the conversations, I like teaching. So when I have the appropriate conversation with someone where someone else in the team should be having it, but is not equipped to do it or doesn't know yet how to do it, I feel like I enjoy sort of teaching the conversation. Like, this is what we say, this is why we say it, this is why we do it. Do you feel like you can do it again? Can you do it again? And tell me before you do it so I can help get involved. And then there are, I think, instances where it's sometimes easier for someone to just do it than to teach it. Like, I don't know if you ever had like a parent, like a tutor help you in schoolwork or something, and it's like, it might just be easier for them to do the homework assignment than to teach you how to do it your damn self.
Totally.
I never had that problem. That's just an inherent trait I've always had. I've always liked teaching. So I don't do it because like the pain of me having to do it is so excruciating. And like, I need to delegate this. I just always like the teaching the things. And look, there are some people who didn't learn the thing, and they had to go. They had to go, you know? So you have to do it because, you know, that's, if you're going to hold a standard, like a high performance standard in your company among your employees, if someone's not able to uphold it, other employees notice, you know, and that's where you have the A players and B players mixed together, and the A players know there's B players in the group, and they'll still show up to work, like their constitution, their personality, so that they show up and they perform. But you're not going to get everything that they have to give because they know there's some B players there and they're bringing down the average. So that shouldn't be another good incentive for teaching process and using process, like ability to adhere to process is something that is a standard that people can, you know, adhere to or not be able to adhere to.
Well, so what it sounds like is you're describing not needing to solve that problem externally as much as perhaps we do, but having to solve it internally with people on the team.
Yeah.
When did you realize, when was the day? Because I've never run a tech company because I have enough trouble offloading my Google Drive onto an external hard drive. So I have no business owning a tech company. When did you realize that your job responsibilities had shifted from simple is an understatement, but visionary, to responsible party for the development and security of a team?
Pretty early on for me, like maybe my first employee.
Wow.
Early.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was teaching this employee like basically everything that I was in charge of doing myself. So it was like straight delegation from the beginning. And I remember like the first week, or this employee's still with us, he's like one of our most tenured employees. I remember the first week or two, I like came home to my wife and I was like, you can't do it. You can't do it. And I was thinking like, will all my new employees not be able to do it? Like, will it just be me and James building and selling software the rest of our lives? And that is just so, that's like, you know, the neophyte of a leader compared to, you know, like on the whole journey, the roadmap. And I forget like the phrase you were using to sort of describe like visionary to whatever, but like now the phrase I use for myself is quality control manager. You know, I'm ensuring the quality of all the processes taking place around here, at the existing ones and the new ones. And that's the term I love the most is I'm a quality control manager. I assess the quality, whether it's good enough, and if it is, can we make it better? And you do that with processes big and small all the time, day after day. And that's kind of what it's turned out to be. And you do it in a collaborative sense. Like I'm not looking over people's shoulders. It's like if we're sitting at a table, hypothetically, we're sitting on the same side of the table, looking at the process together. It's a good way to put it too. That way it doesn't look like you're, you know, the process police. You're more like how do we do this together to make it better sort of thing.
And your team is remote or are they local?
Fully remote. No one works. Not 2 people work like this face to face in the whole company.
Even you and James?
Even me and James.
Where's he?
Maryland. Okay. Ocean City, Maryland. Yeah. Oh. I've seen James. Wait, hold on. I've seen James in person twice in the last 3 years.
Ocean City, Maryland. Come on, man.
Yeah.
My wife knows.
Well, Berlin, Maryland. I use Ocean City generally. I shouldn't do him like that. I did him dirty there.
You know what? Like the problem for Ocean City, Maryland for me is like, Oh, this is how you get canceled on your own podcast. It's just it's a place where people go to become unhealthy.
Yes.
And I don't mean like Vegas unhealthy. Like it's a different unhealthy.
Oh man, Sean, you're gonna like appreciate this. When I first moved to Maryland and met James, who's from Maryland, he told me that there's like this term called Ocean City baby. And like all the high schoolers all over the state for senior week go to Ocean City. And statistically speaking, like there might be a baby or two made every year from that. And he said there was a term for it, Ocean City babies. And I was like, I was dying when I heard that. I think that's a great way to kind of sum it up.
It's that is a great way to enter into the world of what that place is. My wife loves it. My kids love it because they don't know any different. I just can't. I really, yeah, we'll move on from Ocean City, Maryland.
He's in a beautiful family town inland. I did him dirty. He's from about, yeah.
Well, look, great crab cakes, great crabs,
yeah,
great crab soup.
Yeah.
We're done.
Totally.
That's it. Go there for those three things and then go home. Go bring a cooler with you. Okay. So that's, how do you solve complex technological system problems over the internet?
Oh, well, I think it starts with the people you hire. I make sure that like when we hire folks that, you know, they know we're a tech company, and like, not just that they know it, but like, you know, their skill set is like adequate enough to work for a tech company. Look, there's some really, really good folks out there who would be great at customer support and great at connecting with strength coaches, those kinds of things. But I can't bring someone in here who's like, I'm on a PC since I've had since college, and like, don't ask me to do anything technical. Like, that's not me, but they're good at everything else. Like, I guess we just made it a requirement, like part of the job. You work remote. You got to be up to date on, you know, some basic skills for that. So I think that goes a long way, making it a prerequisite for the job.
Do you ever wonder if TeamBuildr would be a different company if you were in person?
Yes, I do. And I don't think we'd be better than where we are now.
That's good.
It's just a pragmatic. I wish I had like some, you know, TED Talk stuff to share with you here, but I have a really pragmatic reason for this. We put a job out and we say, you have to come into the office at least 3 days a week, right? And our office is in X suburb of DC. Our applicant pool is going to be X. And then if we say it's a remote job, you just have to be in one of the 4 major time zones in the US. Our applicant pool is X to the 10th degree. We get so many more applicants that we just hire better people because we have a bigger talent pool to choose from. It's really that simple. And that's why we'll never go back.
I get it. It's reasonable. We had a, for lack of a better way to describe it, an argument in our leadership call the other day between sales and service, right? So basically what happens is sales understands certain things about the sales cycle as people come in to become clients. Service understands exactly what happens right after they become clients. And one of the things that we do right now is we have an upfront price for our gym owner support product, our ProPath. An upfront price of $5,900. And then each month thereafter is $2,400 plus $700 or $800 per coach after the second coach. The mentors receive the clients right after they enroll. And the clients are typically asking questions like, why, you know, not typically, they have asked questions like, why is it more money for the first month than not the second month? Like, why does the price go down? Why is it done this way? And they don't have a great answer for them. And so they were like, we should change the way that we sell it because we don't have a great answer. I'm like, no, you should have a better answer. I'm like, well, what's your answer? And my answer was, there's 2 things. Number one, our lift early on is huge. We spend more than triple the time in that first month than we typically spend with them. Now, it's not their responsibility. That's our own problem, right? But number 2 is we've seen that when people come in at a price point that's really uncomfortable, they take action more quickly.
Yeah.
because it was uncomfortable.
Either yes or no, right?
What's that?
Either yes or no. Is that what you mean?
No, like you enroll and it's like, wow, that was a big nut. Now
Oh,
I got to
okay.
do something.
Now I better get to work. I got to earn this nut back.
Yes, precisely. But the service team is like, they're the ones who are like patient progress, patient, Ken, right? Ken is your mentor, is my mentor, patient progress. I'm like, they are in and there's a fire under their ass. Help them. So we had this argument, which was really productive. It was really, really valuable argument.
Yeah.
And everyone agreed. And after it was over, we all go back into our own little world. I would have loved an argument like that to happen when we're all in the same place, because I would go back to our offices and then throughout the day we're seeing each other. And we're like, so I was thinking about that thing we said earlier. Like, what do you think of this idea? I feel like that would foster something different. I don't know if it'd be better.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about.
It is. I think about it often. I do. And you and I have a big role in that. Like, it takes no effort to Slack call someone and say, what'd you think about that? Or
Totally.
should I pull Ryan in here? It's not always top of mind. Like, you're busy, I'm busy. I got my Evernote task list up. Like, I got to get through this thing. Like, I got HR stuff. I know. But those little conversations, little fire starter conversations, like, if you're not having them, your employees ain't having them, for you. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have them with folks in order for people to know, like, this is something that we do around here with each other.
Oh yeah, totally. What is how many employees or how many people at the TeamBuildr team now?
Oh, just yesterday we brought on our 23rd employee.
So very, very similar in size to us in terms of staff. Have you done any things that you kind of stumbled into and now they're consistent progress? Like, they're a consistent part of your process from a human to human perspective?
Well, no, I haven't really stumbled on anything. Speaking of Ken, our mentor in common, he pushed us to hire someone who his official title is like assistant, like executive assistant. But in reality, there's so much more than that. They sort of are tasked with kind of like maintaining culture and interaction amongst the company. That was very intentional. And I have to be honest with you, I was like really nervous about that hire because I didn't want an assistant. I didn't think I needed one. And I kind of knew we needed like a culture person or someone to keep James and I mindful of things like culture and human to human interaction. But so that hire is like paid for itself so many times over. And that was one thing I'm so grateful for doing. And I was just nervous. I was like, this sounds like I'm just kind of hiring this person because my mentor is kind of telling me to do it. I kind of felt like obligated to make the hire. So that's the only thing that comes to mind that was intentional as far as stumbling across things. What does help for us is that some of our most tenured employees were employees that were in the office with James and I, and they're able to help kind of disseminate the culture that existed at the office in this remote environment. So it's not just all on me and James. We have some few key employees that were there in the early days, and they can really kind of help out with that.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday called Business Movers. And it was the 4-part series about the CEO of Microsoft, a guy named Satya. And they were talking about a part when he hired the director of culture for Microsoft. And all I was thinking about is like, man, I would love to have a director of culture at Active Life. I just don't know how that person would ever pay for themselves. You have to have so much money that it's like, yeah, fuck it. We're going to spend some money on this woo-woo thing. How have they paid for themselves?
Well, let's see. This person might talk to each individual employee like on a daily basis, if not close. And this person obviously talks to me on a daily basis.
When you say talk, we talking about text over Slack, or are we talking about on the phone? How you doing? What would you have for breakfast?
I'm talking text over Slack. I'm talking about a lot of video calls,
Okay.
And I'm talking video calls where this person might call you to clear up a detail on like an HR thing for 2 minutes, and then she might talk to you for 5 minutes after about how are things going. She knows everyone's sort of spouse's name. She puts together like the internal team PowerPoint that has everyone's sort of personal life summarized in a paragraph. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. And then of course she talks to me on a daily basis, and I kind of feel like she's an extension of myself, so that like when she's talking to someone, she's kind of passing on things that we've been talking about day to day as well. So it's like it's attention, time and attention in a way that sort of multiplies myself. And also important things kind of come back to me through her. She lets me know about things like Clayton, Clayton's wife's pregnant. His registry is ready. Oh, that's amazing. Let's get him something, and then like that's hard to do when it's just on you. When you double your body count and you're both interested in those things, it just pays off like that.
I follow you. There's been many times when I've made a mental note to send somebody a gift, and then sometimes I do it. I understand.
It goes such a long way.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're listening to this, Sheila, maybe we can work on that. You're great. I love you. If it wasn't for you, I'd be headless. So that's not a complaint. It's a thought of another way we can add value.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to ask you about your thoughts on this because it's something I recently started doing, and I feel like it's something that I think it's something you may enjoy. So when we got past 20 staff members, it became this thing where we were hiring people who I never met. They were getting hired without ever meeting me because we have someone on the team who's like, if you're a leader, you can hire someone for your department.
Uh-huh.
And these people all came through our program, but it used to be, I sold everything to everybody. I sold every coach into immersion when we had immersion. I sold every individual into RX when we like that. I was the only one selling anything because I was like, I want to handpick everybody who works with us.
Uh-huh.
Ultra control freak. Now I don't do that. And so we've had people who've come through our program, done a great job, applied for a job, been hired, who I never met along the way. And I, when they get hired, I meet with them just to get to know you a little bit, but that's not lasting, right?
You can't take their job offer back.
Right. I've never wanted to, but so I recently it was a team member who called me out for something, and I liked it. I was like, that's really good. That's very valuable feedback. Are you free to talk next week? Yes. So we talked next week. I was like, can you talk again next week? Yes. We ended up talking every week for about 8 weeks. And just, it got to the point that calls started off with like, hey, so how are things going? What's new for you this week? How can I make your job at Active Life better? And what do you think of this? Can you help me with this idea? And after 8 weeks, I was like, you know what? I think we've kind of run our course on me talking to you every week. It's kind of a little bit social now. I'm going to move this on to somebody else on the team. And so I stopped talking to them every week. I'm still open door to them, but I can now talk to another team member every week and get to know them a little bit for about a month. And I'm going to do it again. And I found that to be something that we're early. I'm only in my 3rd month doing it, but it's really gratifying and it's eye-opening for me.
Uh-huh. I like that. Look, if someone was like, a month's not enough, I got to keep talking to you. I'm sure no one's really thought that, right? Like it's sufficient for them as well, I presume.
I think it is. I think it also, like the messages that I get from the first person now are very different than the messages I would have gotten before.
Yeah.
Because for example, it's kind of like you go on a date with someone the first time. You're like, I'm going to show them a professional version of me. I want to make sure that I'm careful. I don't offend.
Best foot forward.
All of that. Like, I'm going to be reserved. I'm not going to lie about who I am. I'm just not going to be necessarily all of me yet for this person. I'm a lot. And not to suggest I'm going on dates, happily married 12 years. But then you get into more dates and it's like, I'm comfortable being more of myself with this person. And this person in general just sends me messages that I can now respond to in a way that is much more casual while still being professional and therefore effective.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Makes total sense.
And there are other people on the team who I imagine, as much as I want them to know they can reach out, won't until there's a threshold that they've reached.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. I'm having a realization that I think is only fair to sort of put out there. And it has to do with like the nature of our companies. My company is sort of split in two. We have similar number of employees, but James, my partner, oversees a dev team I rarely rarely talk to anyone on the dev team. So I'm probably, even though the absolute number is the same, I'm probably directly responsible for less people. So I'm probably coming up on where you are once my like head count on my particular team doubles. I'm just having that realization. I thought it was worth mentioning.
That is interesting because there are two of you.
Yeah, there are two of us. Yeah.
And you have this, I imagine the person who is really good at development is very different than the person who's very good at sales and customer support.
Oh, yeah. I hope they are. So I'm thinking about now, so you're telling me this, and I'm kind of making a mental note in my head, like I'm not there yet, but I might not be far from that. Because I feel like I'm manageable. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get to the point probably where it's not manageable.
I was curious your thoughts because it's something that I stumbled into that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was like, you know what? I need to get to know everybody better.
Yeah.
I always want to know everybody better, but I kind of got resigned to I don't know, maybe when the company hits a certain size, it's really hard to get to know everybody. And it is, but so you have to make an effort.
Yeah. And I've been on the other end. Like I was an employee. Totally. And I was at a company that had like 50 people, and the CEO did like a quarterly one-on-one where you went on like a 30-minute coffee date, coffee break thing. Man, I just kind of felt like it was going through the motions.
Right.
I just kind of felt like it was going through the motions. And I'm like, man, it'd be better off if this guy didn't do this and someone closer to me in the hierarchy did it in a more meaningful way. That would be more productive. And I still remember that to this day. That was like 11 years ago. I still remember that.
That's how I feel about the 30-minute, you just got hired, let's get to know each other call.
Yeah.
Right.
It's nice. Nothing, no harm, no foul, but.
Right. But I'm not changing anybody's life. No one's like, oh, wow, he got on the phone with me. He really cares.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I've also, we used to run our staff meetings where I would lead. I would say like, okay, now you share, now you share, now you share. And I felt like it was summoning people to my throne. And so I stopped that. I'm like, I don't lead them. Right. Tell me what's going on in your department. No, I don't lead them anymore. But what are some things that you've done to intentionally foster culture at TeamBuildr? Because a quote that I liked from that business builders, I forget whatever the name of the podcast was that I forgot just already, about the guy from Google, Microsoft, was one of his expressions was culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And you have an intentional culture. We have an intentional culture. What have you done to foster it on purpose?
That's a good question. I don't have it written on a whiteboard or a Notion page. I know that.
Why?
I think, we have this like Notion page, right? It's our company sort of mission and the values, I guess. And every time I hire a new employee, we go through it together. It's like short, it's like 3 lines or whatever. And I tell them, I'm like, look, this thing was kind of put together with a decent amount of thought, but it's not very long, because if you go and read a mission statement that's like this and it's on a plaque on the wall, it's just words on a plaque on a wall. What the culture is and what the mission and what the values are is what you're living out day to day via your actions at the company. So we don't really mess around and noodle with the values and write them down in the mission statement. And I make sure I tell everyone this. I'm like, the mission statement and the values, that's what takes place when you're on a call with a customer who's annoying the shit out of you and no one's there to listen to you. What you say back there in that private conversation, like that's the mission statement. Those are the values. So I think just kind of saying that me ever so often kind of puts it in perspective. Like, we don't get any credit for brainstorming on a Zoom call and writing it down on the Notion page or building a plaque and putting it on the wall. It has to be lived out. And then you got to live it out from there. Like this customer I was telling you about that I'm texting, like, he was giving my guy a hard time. He was giving someone else a hard time. Like, they were like, look, I'll take over. I'll take it on the text. Like, that right there, I felt like was appropriate and wasn't consciously thinking about it, but like that sort of contributes to the culture. And someone's going to do that for me. Like, this person can come back and just crush me. Like, I might be giving my best man speech at a wedding and this person's like calling me in the middle of it because he has an issue. Like, someone's got to come in and step in and help me out there, and they will. So I don't know. I don't put a lot of thought into defining it, but we do talk a lot about how it's not something that's written down. It's something that we see in each other every day, sort of thing.
do you think everyone on the team would describe the culture as similar?
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
That's good. That's good. Do you love it the way you used to love it?
I love it more because I just love my employees.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm like getting like pseudo emotional here, but
I got you.
In the beginning, yeah, thanks, man. In the beginning, you know, me and James, man, I love James. Like, we lived together so long from college, after college, that when he got married, we thought we would have an issue with James and I already having a common law marriage. That's how long we lived together prior to him like getting married. But when it was just me and James, it was me, James, and TeamBuildr, our little product. And then we started bringing the employees on, and you know, we've had to let some employees go, but up until now, no one's left our company. No one's left for another job ever. We're like batting 1,000. I know it's not going to be like that forever, but I like just kind of bragging about it right now because I can say it, and I like them so much. I like going to work with my people more than I like my product or service, and I like my customers a lot, but I like my employees more. Like, they're my people. So that's why I love it way more now, and I continue to love it more and more. And like, there may be a time, right, where someone comes around and they're like, TeamBuildr is great, I like this company, I heard there's just 2 owners, like, let's see if they're willing to do some sort of deal here. Like, the hardest thing is not going to be this whole software thing that we've been building for a decade. It's going to be like, me and my people, I like this thing. You know, you have to really kind of talk me out of not showing up to work with these people every day. It's kind of works like that for me at the moment.
That's cool. I feel like that's how it should be.
I think that's how it should be. Yeah.
For people who maybe weren't catching on, what you were describing there was, if somebody came along to try to acquire TeamBuildr, it wouldn't be as much about the money as it would be about the missing of your opportunity to show up to work and support those people and have those people supporting you and your clients.
Yeah, man. Like, what would I do? You know, I'd go. I would probably immediately go out there and try to recreate something, just to kind of recreate the magic, just to recreate the magic. And I'd probably bug the shit of my employees. Like, I'd be like, how's it going? Like, what are you doing? You know, what are you working on? Like, I probably would. Have
you had down moments at TeamBuildr where you had to realize like this is entrepreneurship? Or has it been just once you started getting some traction, it's just been traction?
You know, financially speaking, we haven't had down moments. We're so lucky for that. Never missed a payroll, never had to pull back a job off or anything like that. So none of that. Letting go of people is always hard. But to be honest with you, I think James and I have got it really, really good. If we had gratitude journals, we would just be writing away. Because, like, you know, sometimes I meet some, you know, old timers, I guess, some guys who started a couple businesses or whatever and put the house up and things like that. I'm like, man, my eyes glaze over. I'm like, I couldn't imagine, you know, having like to fight those hardships. And I see some folks, you know, that I respect on Instagram kind of post about their past struggles and challenges. And sometimes I comment or I DM them. I'm like, dude, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what you did. Like, I get upset about some of my challenges and they're nothing compared to yours. I've had it really easy as an entrepreneur, and got to stay humble and grateful for that. Really.
You know, what's interesting about that is the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And I'm often curious about that. And I don't want to experience anything worse than I've experienced, right? I'm not interested in like, oh, well, let's see what would happen if tragedy struck in one way or another in my life. No, thanks. No, thanks. I'll pass. But I have been through some crap.
Familiar with yours.
And forgetting the financials, right? It was, those were the small things. Those affected my ego. They didn't affect anyone in the company. It was my ego. I was talking to a client today who had no idea we ever had a down month, which is great. That's how I want it to be. But I wonder how much you're able to brush off just grinding and doing things the hard way without even necessarily recognizing it. And I hear you. You might not have like this crazy story where,
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to like, hey, dig down, find that struggle and share it on the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Look, I know there's probably some compartmentalization taking place with me. I've sort of done that like through hard parts of childhood. I've kind of done it through like dark times in college, and I'm sure I'm doing that with my company. I'm good at doing it for some reason. But
when you've had to let people go, you mentioned that you really didn't like that.
I hate that. I hate it so much.
So how have you done it?
Just by being really honest and doing it. I used to do it. This sounds so bad. Oh my God, it sounds so bad. It gets easier. The first time's the hardest, and then it gets easier,
I know exactly what you mean when you say that.
Do you?
Yeah, 100%. Because I still care about people the same amount.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time we did it, it was like my partner and I did it in person, and it was like the whole day we were such in a bad mood, like no one talked to us. And I say bad mood, like sad mood, like the first time we had to do this, it was terrible. It was awful. And then the last time I had to do it, I told my partner, like, I'm good. You don't even have to come for this. Like, he didn't manage her. She was my hire and so on. And I just did it. And it still wasn't easy. Like, it still gets me really, really down, but, I hate those moments, and there are good incentives for not doing them again. Like, it's painful, and I want to really avoid that. How do you avoid that? I mean, you got to hire better. You just got to hire better. Yeah.
Hired better and develop better. I remember, the first time I ever had to let somebody go wasn't even in this company. It was in a different company. And it was 11 hours of conversation over 3 days with this person. Because I didn't have what it took to just say, it's not working.
Yeah.
So for 11 hours, I talked to them.
Yeah.
I was miserable for a week. And I'm sure that they were too. And I recently made a post about how oftentimes, while it sucks and it's the worst thing a business owner or a leader in a company has to do, firing somebody can be the most empathetic thing that you do for someone. Do you share that perspective?
I do.
Can you speak to it? Because I think that you're, generally speaking, kinder than I am, and people hearing it from someone like you would be great.
Yeah, well, look, it would feel really shitty to tell the person you're firing, and I maybe I did it, I don't, I probably didn't. It feel really shitty to be like, this is good for both of us. That sounds like the biggest cop out to the person probably that you're firing. I wouldn't know, but it kind of does sound like that. But it doesn't make it untrue just because it sounds really shitty to say to the person that you're letting go. And in all these moments that we've done it, like it is true. It is good. It is good for them. It is empathetic because they weren't growing as a person here, and there was not a future for them here. And I think all the people that I've let go, I mean, it's like TBD for some, but like, I know they've gone on to do better things and like found a better path. And like, a traumatic event like getting fired will do that to you. It kind of should light a fire under your ass. And if it doesn't, then even if it doesn't mean that the company had to keep you, it didn't mean that you had to stay on. So yes, I don't think I've said it, but like, my partner and I have always been confident, like, these are good. This is a good thing. Like, it's shitty, but it's a good thing for them. It's a good thing for us. Like, that's how it ought to be. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a person who I had to let go maybe about a year ago, who I felt really bad about it because I think this person was really, really good. It just wasn't a match at the time when they were in the role that they were in. Reach out and be like, hey, I want to check in and see how things are going. Like, things look awesome. And I was like, wow, like, it's really cool that this person is reaching out to me. I always feel bad about reaching out to them and asking how it's going for them, because I don't want to hear like everything sucks thanks to you, which is not what I expect. But it's nice to hear back from somebody else who's like, no, look, it totally made sense. And I'm
Or
glad we did.
you might get I've never been better. Fuck you. You know,
Right.
like,
But that's fine.
It's fine too. Like, cause everything is better for them. That would be better for sure.
I was with someone at the beach the other day who I met for the first time. And for people listening, I live at the beach. So going to the beach is like, I walk to the beach. And I was with someone for the first time. I never met him before. They were a friend of a friend. And this person was like, that's who your mom is? Like, you're that's who you are? I'm like, yeah. Just like, my mom hated your mom. I'm like, oh. I'm like, why? She's like, your mom fired my mom. I'm like, oh man, I'm really sorry. And she's like, yeah. She's like, it's all right. Like, whatever. It is what it is. I'm like, well, listen, you can tell your mom that my mom is really happy and living a great life if you want. Like, it was like this awkward conversation we're having. I'm like, I'm gonna make this as awkward as I possibly can and then take it back to normalcy after that. And that was the end of that.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's one of those topics. It's like, I have been fired from a job before and I was angry at the time, but not because I loved the job and wanted it. I was angry because somebody else told me I couldn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 minutes afterwards, it would have been like one of those things when you have an argument with a friend and you know you're wrong, but you're not giving it to the friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all over. And someone else is like, he was right. You're like, yeah, of course he was, but I wasn't going to give that to him. That's how I felt about getting fired.
Yeah. I've had similar feelings when I got rejected from jobs, once you go deep in the interview process.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to be angry. You're dejected, definitely very vulnerable. Right. But in my personal experience, like those things, I always came out better on the other end,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more of a fire in my belly. Sort of the feeling sorry for yourself phase exists, and it ought to be short. It ought to be short. Like, you're only human. You might feel it, but like, you got to get through it. You got to get through that on to the other side.
How have you and James maintained your relationship? I mean, you guys basically were married,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you're responsible for 21 kids together.
Yeah.
And what I find the most difficult part of all of that, from my experience, is being a less than amazing partner to other people, because I didn't know any better how to do it, is you guys went from being college kids to being adult entrepreneurs who share a vision that, as it evolves, stays shared.
Mm-hmm.
How have you done
that? For this one, I've had many years to sort of think about it and sort of articulate it. It really comes down to, and I've learned this from James probably more than he's learned this from me, but suppression of the ego, suppression of self, is a really big one. And I'm using the word ego in like a philosophical term. No decision, no sort of conflict is greater than he and I's relationship. So we'll never let a decision about the company, about anything, personnel or finances or anything, it will never exceed the importance of he and I's relationship. And we have a mutual understanding on that. We don't even really have to say it out loud. That really comes from suppression of the ego. James is good at it, always has been, and has more or less taught me by example, to do the same. So it often means deferring on things. I sometimes, and he does too, want to feel strongly about something. And then the moment it feels like it encroaches a little bit on the relationship, you got to let it go. You got to let it go, to the point where, I promise you, I'm not just saying this. If James came to me tomorrow and he was like, we're pivoting this whole thing, we're going to make lingerie. And I really recognized it, like saw it in his eye, and like, this is in his heart. He really wants to do this. Like, this will fulfill his life. We would be doing lingerie, and I'd be doing the same thing for him, just for a company that makes lingerie. Seriously.
Would he do the same thing if you were the one who said we're pivoting to lingerie?
He would. He was the one who taught me.
That's cool. I can tell you that you're a more mature version of who I was growing up and having partners. I'd like to believe that if I had partners now, I could do it the way that you and James do it. I'm not looking for a partner right now, but that's what I'd like to believe. In my last partnership relationship, I was you and my partner was James. And it was in a clinic. He was a better practitioner than me, period. He loved being a practitioner more than I did. And I was better at getting us known. Like I was the guy out there making sure everyone knew who we were, getting people to come into the clinic. But over time, his ability to treat patients was the thing that started to draw patients in. And so it would be like, if now your software is great, and it just like when you talked about feeling like you were twiddling your thumbs because you were striking out, and he's over there doing all this stuff, and that's what's actually becoming the company. That's where we found ourselves. We hit this phase where I wasn't making it rain new patients anymore. And a lot of the patients coming in were his referrals that started as my lead. Right. And I won't speak for him. I didn't have the wherewithal to navigate those conversations at the time. And I believe everything worked out for the better because he's still doing that and is doing really well with it. And I'm doing this and we're doing really well with it. So it kind of lends itself to, we did the right things for ourselves. But I have a lot of respect for you and for James and the way that you've communicated, the way that you've supported each other, and the way you've made decisions collaboratively throughout your career.
Yeah, no, look, I appreciate that. Again, I want to paint the big picture here. I sort of admitted to you earlier, I haven't had like a personal catastrophe or like a business one happen to us yet. I feel confident we get through it. You know, I know we would. But I think we are lucky. Lucky as well as, in addition to us sort of contributing to our successful partnership.
Well, if it gives you any peace of mind, I didn't have those with the partners either. It wasn't, we didn't run into problems because of that. We ran into problems because of what you just described. I wasn't prepared to do. Yeah. If we pivot this thing and do lingerie, I'm not in. And if we pivot this thing and take it online, he's not in. Yeah. And so it was like, well, I guess you make lingerie and I'll go online. Yes. Yeah. That's basically what happened with us. Yeah. Is there anything that you would say is a non-negotiable about who somebody is if they're going to work at TeamBuildr?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. You know, that's a tough one for me because I do have some pretty strict beliefs about delineating between someone's personal life and then their professional life, yet some flaws are apparent in both. You know, some flaws transfer between both. So man, that's a really tough one. I'm trying to think of some people that weren't a good fit for that reason or such, but man, that's a really good question. You stumped me on the pod.
Got it. Well, it's okay. You go home and you think about that when you write it down.
Yeah, I might have to. I mean, look, I'm a big believer in like you know, what people do outside of work is their own business sort of thing. And yes, some flaws can show in like, you know, lack of work ethic. You know, that's not going to make its way in the door. Well, being unethical is a big one for me. Yeah.
The most difficult thing for me in this time is because of the way I guess our country is. I'm not sure if I would be comfortable bringing somebody in who is very politically affiliated in their private life. Either way. Yeah. I don't know where like that just came up because of one of the recent almost hires that we made, and it just ended up not working out and for the better. But you know, I'm always curious about who you're looking for and who you're saying like you might be a phenomenal employee in someone else's company.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the latest hire I made, I kind of went through like the handbook thing, the whatever. And we were going through the company values, and one of the company values, I'll just sum it up as like, be a good person. And I was sort of walking through this one with him. And I was like, look, this one is like if someone just goes off in the company chat and they're like, hey, I think, you know, these people should be hanged for treason. I'd be like, That was like, this guy really went there. The company value as it applies to me would be like, hey, I'm not going to smoke this person right there in the company chat in front of the other person. Like, that one's going private. And then I would talk to that person about how the company values apply to them. You know, you can bring things to the company where you're bringing your views and you're imposing them on someone. And we just don't do that here, you know? And then I said the other thing, I was like, there could be someone that comes in here and says right there in the company chat, there are 56 gender pronouns and we should recognize every single one of them. I'd be like, I don't like that one at all. But I'm not going to roast them right there in the company chat, because that company value applies to me as well as to them. That one's going private, and then we're talking about it.
Wait, hold on. This is important.
Uh-huh.
How do you shut it down there without roasting them and then get them into the private conversation? Because one of the things I'm sharing with you there is we never criticize people publicly.
Yeah.
We praise publicly, criticize privately.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if someone writes look, there are 56 genders and we need to have every single one of them on our check down list for a new client on our site, for example, I imagine I would write something like, this is something that we would discuss, you know, privately and internally. Let's not make this the conversation on Slack.
Yeah, totally. No, same thing. Same thing. I have to treat this person with respect. If they come in spouting the craziest shit in my company chat, I got to respectfully, you know, bring them to the place where I think it's most appropriate, respectfully, right? And then look, that private conversation, let's go there, right? Let's not circumvent the issue. That conversation could turn to some sort of place, but it ultimately going to probably come down to like a conversation about values and like where the company values end and where the personal values begin. And I think that line has definitely moved, like for our company, and not our company, for the country as we're referencing it as a whole. But it's still a line, and I've still got to draw it. You know, like I like our universal values that really no one can argue with, and then beyond that are just individual values, and you can choose to introduce your individual values to your organization, your employer, or you can choose not to, because like, man, I've got some personal values that, and you call them values or beliefs or whatever, right? Like I want to introduce them to the company. Like I believe them in my personal life. I don't want to put that on anyone in my company. And like, I just might use that example to ask the same of someone else, you know?
Listen, you said shit about 2 minutes ago. It's the first time I heard you curse.
Really? I think
not just on the show. First time I heard you curse since I've met you.
When I don't know, maybe it's this new kid I have. Apparently he understands words now, and maybe that's what it is.
That could be right. Yeah, I had something I was going to say there that they couldn't have been that important because it slipped my mind. But Hewitt, I have a lot of respect for you. I really value our relationship, not just, you know, commercially, but also personally. I appreciate you having you in my life. If you were someone who was local, or if I was more local too, I'd like to believe that we would hang out with our wives at a campfire in the backyard, and also go out to the restaurant. And I would probably leave before it became a bar. I don't know what you would do. It'd be up to you. Anything you would like to share with the audience before you jump? Because the reason I wanted to have you on was because I believe that you exhibit the leadership qualities of a company who I want to be associated with. Right? Like the reason why I'm comfortable telling people, check out TeamBuildr, even though it doesn't line up perfectly for the way that we service a client at Active Life, is because I have so much respect for the values of the company, the ownership, and everyone I've met in the company. So is there anything that you would like to share with people about you, about TeamBuildr, before you get jumping here?
Not necessarily to, you know, anyone who will listen to this, but more interested in sort of reciprocating what you said, like identifying the good companies and the good people in the space that you work in, and knowing who they are just goes a long way, you know. And our podcast episode started with reputation, and we're ending it now kind of with reputation. And you kind of nailed the nail on the head. Like that's what it is, and that's what it comes down to. Regardless of whether or not you are shaking hands with them, doing business with them, that kind of stuff. knowing who the role players are. And, when we say role players, not like the real G's, I'm talking about good person. Like, I'm not just throwing that out there as like a phrase, good person. And I remember distinctly, Sean, the first time you and I met each other, you said something to the effect of, Ken trust you, so therefore I trust you. Like, life can this complicated life, right, with all this stuff, business and kids and family and friends and everything, can get really simple if you have really clear, direct lines of like who you can trust, and that goes a super long way. So
very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find out information about TeamBuildr? And I'm asking that because I know that TeamBuildr is much more active on socials than Hewitt Tomlin.
Yeah, they are. Everyone lives on Instagram these days. Like, it is what it is. So,
well, it doesn't have to be Instagram. Where can people find out more about TeamBuildr? Because I think that genuinely every coach who is writing programs for clients online should look at TeamBuildr before they choose who they're going to work with.
Yeah. The website and the Instagram. Yeah. There's okay. Two, but quite honestly, like, hit me up. All my sales guys, the sales guys are great guys. They're all good. Like, you can go on Instagram and the website, you can get hooked up with one of them for sure. But if someone here listened to me and they are interested because of me, then why not just hit me up? So I'm primarily on Instagram. You can hit me up there. Instagram, just search Hewitt Tomlin. There's not that many of us. My dad has the same name, but he doesn't have an Instagram, so it makes it simple.
So you're a junior?
I'm the fourth.
Wow.
And get this, and this can be another podcast episode, but I broke the chain. I had a son 11 months ago. I had to name Hewitt the fifth. I just felt like, I'm a software salesman. My dad's a school teacher. Like, we're not royalty. What are we doing here? Let's just close the chapter on the whole thing. And some people in the family are okay with that, and other people in the family don't like that, apparently.
I believe that. That is a whole nother podcast.
Family therapy, the family therapy episode.
Family therapy, interjecting your thoughts and beliefs into somebody else's life who has no use for them. Yeah. All right, Hewitt, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.